Hey, how's it going? Andy here. Today I'm going to talk about why 90s Cartoon Network, which is so amazing. So this is going to be a discussion video, just like what I did when I was talking about why 90s Nickelodeon was so just amazing. Basically, it's very little editing. It's just you and I just having a conversation, me explaining why I think just 90s Cartoon Network was just so great. So before we get into the actual shows and that type of stuff, I just want to talk about a little bit about the history of Cartoon Network, because it is actually a relatively young cartoon, not just cartoon, but a young channel. Unlike Nickelodeon, which actually started in the 70s, and it was like a local channel. But Cartoon Network was founded on October 1st of 92. It was after TBS basically bought the Hanna-Barbera studios and all that stuff, so they wanted their own just like channel to play Hanna-Barbera stuff and to have new cartoons. So they came up with Cartoon Network, which is very fitting. It was the only like 24-hour cartoon channel that was out at the time, like during the 90s. And like I said, it was founded in 92, so it's a relatively young. It had a lot of competition. You had Disney, you had Nickelodeon, who their cartoons are just absolutely just amazing. What else? Disney, even PBS, I think, gave Cartoon Network kind of a run for its money. But it was mainly, when you think 90s, you think Cartoon Network, Disney, and Nickelodeon. But it was kind of like what Nintendo and Sega Genesis was kind of doing. It was kind of like that war. Not as intense, though, but it was either you're a Cartoon Network kid or a Nickelodeon kid. In my house, it was both. So, but I have friends that didn't like Nickelodeon. They only liked Cartoon Network, and I get it. I completely do. So, starting off, like I said, Cartoon Network was young. It was founded in 92. It had a lot of competition. It had some really insane competition, but I think it actually held its own. A lot of the shows at the time were like Hanna-Barbera reruns, or there were shows that were very similar to Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Like, they had the same feeling. They were different, but they had that same feeling. So that's why when you watch, like, for example, Johnny Bravo, it kind of feels familiar. That's because it had a lot of Hanna-Barbera influences. Like, for example, there was a whole storyline of Johnny Bravo just falling in love with Daphne from Scooby-Doo, and Scooby-Doo was in Johnny Bravo. That's why, because there was that close Hanna-Barbera partnership, basically. And they were owned by the same studio, so they could do stuff like that, which is cool, because you would see Hanna-Barbera cartoons, like cartoon characters, in these newer shows. Starting out, Cartoon Network didn't have a lot of shows. From this list, it looks like they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They had 11 shows, which, sure, it seems like a good amount, but compared to shows like channels like Nickelodeon and Disney that had a lot more variety, that's kind of all they had. But they had a trick up their sleeve, Hanna-Barbera, which I've said a lot, but they were able to show Hanna-Barbera cartoons when they weren't showing these newer shows, which was really awesome, because you could watch like Scooby-Doo during the day. That was like a big thing. I remember, like, when I was younger, if I was sick or if I was just home for the day for whatever reason from school, or like during the summer, I could watch like Scooby-Doo or A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, or I could watch like Johnny Quest and all that good stuff. It was just awesome. You could watch all these older cartoons, Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, just these amazing cartoons from back in the day, and it was just like showing kids like, hey, they're so cool, which is kind of how like my love for like Scooby-Doo like started. Like, I absolutely love Scooby-Doo. And but let's just talk about the newer shows. So one of my favorites is definitely like Dexter's Lab. Dexter's Lab, again, you can tell it has like this Hanna-Barbera feel to it, because in a way it was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. It was a little bit later, but it was great. Like, you had Dexter, who had this insane, massive, just laboratory in his house that his parents just didn't know about. It's like, how could you not tell? Like, thinking about it now, it's like, the power bill must have been like $10,000, which is probably just way too high. But then you had his sister Dee Dee, who was always just wrecking his lab, just doing crazy things. Then you had Mandark. It was just a really good show. Then you had, basically, it was like the Avengers, in a way, in the, like, it was basically like a skit, in Dexter's Lab, which was great. Dexter's Lab was just hands down just amazing. Then you had the theme song, which was great. You had Johnny Bravo, which Seth MacFarlane worked on, who is the creator of Family Guy, so that's pretty cool. And also, I'm pretty sure Butch Hartman also worked on that, which he created The Fairly Odd Parents, Danny Phantom. Excellent shows, excellent. But one show that I think really kind of, I don't want to say changed the game, but showed that Cartoon Network was a serious, like, force to be reckoned with, I guess you could say, in regards of, like, Nickelodeon and Disney. Ed, Edd and Eddy. That show, first off, it aired late 90s. It was 99, and I just remember I would see all these teasers, and you would just see these three characters, and you would hear just this whistling. And it's like, what is this show? Then it finally aired. It was so good. It was so funny. It was just very well written. Sure, the animation, I'm not gonna lie, isn't like super amazing. Like, I compared to like some of the Nickelodeon and some of the Disney shows at the time, it definitely wasn't like a 10, but it was still good. It had unique characters. The storyline, like, you basically just had these three kids named Ed, and Eddy. You got Double D, who always wore the beanie, never see his hair. I think they actually addressed that in an episode where you actually do get to see his hair. But yeah, Ed, he was just kind of dumb. Then you had Eddy, who's like the cool, like, kind of sleazy, like, dude. I don't know, but it was great. Like, that was like revolutionary, I think, for Cartoon Network. If they didn't air that, I don't think they would have done as well. Yeah, they had great shows like Dexter, Johnny Bravo, Space Ghost. That was pretty cool. The Powerpuff Girls. Then you had weird shows like Courage, that was just filled with your nightmares, but that was also a great show that also aired in 99. But throughout the 90s, Cartoon Network had some great shows. Like I said, you were able to watch all these older Hanna-Barbera cartoons. You were able to see, like, Dexter's Lab, which was great, Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, which I'll get into in a second. But all these great shows. Then you come to a show like Cow and Chicken, which is really weird and just crude, but kids loved it. I loved, like, Cow and Chicken, I Am Weasel. It was great. Like, it was like Ren and Stimpy, just maybe not as bad. I remember it being kind of as bad. Like, bad as in, like, adult themed. Not bad as, like, damn, that sucks. So you had shows like that, which I know my parents didn't really care. So we were able to watch that. Couldn't watch South Park, but we could watch shows like that, which I was fine with. They were pretty crude. So that's that. But another thing Cartoon Network did, there's two more things. I'm going to talk about Boomerang. Boomerang was basically how I never know how to describe these things. It's basically like a sub-channel, I guess, inside of Cartoon Network, if that makes any sense at all. A programming block. That's what I was thinking of. Was a programming block inside of Cartoon Network that just, all it showed were older Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Like, you had Quick Draw McGraw, Johnny Quest, they replaced Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, the Jetsons, the Flintstones. They decided to put all that into one programming block. I remember they used to play it like early in the morning, / late at night, just to kind of help it be a 24-hour Cartoon Network, a cartoon channel, which was awesome. So not only did you get to see Scooby-Doo and like Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes throughout the day, late at night and early in the morning, you could wake up and watch like Johnny Quest. I absolutely love Johnny Quest. Haven't really watched it in a while, but I thought that was great. I love Hanna-Barbera. Wow, almost said Hannah Banana. Hanna-Barbera cartoons, I absolutely just love. But the next programming block that I think really just helped Cartoon Network in the 90s, Toonami. That was such a huge deal. Like, not only just for providing, I'm gonna say, cartoons, because that's what mostly parents knew them as, but that's kind of what helped anime grow in the US, in my opinion. Like, they showed Dragon Ball Z, which was huge, became huge. Like, I remember seeing Dragon Ball Z on like Fox Kids, but when you think Toonami, you remember seeing Dragon Ball Z on Toonami. Toonami was just incredible for showing all these great animes that, honestly, if it wasn't for like Toonami, I probably wouldn't have cared as much about anime. Yeah, sure, there was Pokemon and like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Beyblade, but Toonami kind of helped bring out more serious, more adult-like animes like Dragon Ball Z, which I know was kind of goofy, but it's like there's blood in it, there's fighting, it's violent. Gundam Wing, which was just amazing. Yeah, just stuff like that. I know there's more. I just can't think of it. Actually, I think I might have some in my list here. I don't know, but sure. they just had so many great animes. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head. But Dragon Ball Z, like, that introduced me to Dragon Ball Z, and that kind of became an obsession, not just for me, but for a lot of kids growing up in the 90s that wanted to watch like anime and stuff. Like, there's other animes, like I said, but Dragon Ball Z was like the biggest one. Without that, honestly, I don't think I would care that much about Dragon Ball Z. It was just one of those things. I used to watch it all the time. Then you had the host of Toonami, Tom. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Then later they came out with Adult Swim. That was in like the early 2000s, which showed more adult, like, cartoons, adultier things. So that is that. Then, but after the 90s, I feel like Cartoon Network really got into their stride. You had amazing shows like Samurai Jack, Grim and Evil, which was the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy mixed with Evil Con Carne. So it was Grim and Evil, and they split up into their own shows. Codename Kid Next Door, phenomenal, absolutely love it. I have a list here. Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, had Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Very underrated. I feel like not enough people give that cartoon credit. Clone Wars, which is great. There was just so many just great cartoons on just Cartoon Network up until like 2010s. Like, I would say, like, after like 2012, I feel like it kind of started getting bad. Like, Nickelodeon had that same issue, except Nickelodeon, I feel like, had it happen a lot sooner. But yeah, Cartoon Network, like I said, it was just amazing. If you grew up during the 90s, you most likely watched Cartoon Network and probably loved it, unless you're just all Nickelodeon or all Disney. Like I said, in my household, we watched everything, so it was actually really cool. So, with that being said, let me know, what do you guys think of Cartoon Network? Stumbling over my words, my mouth is dry. But yeah, what shows were your favorite on Cartoon Network? Let me know down below. And with that being said, you guys rock, stay rad. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.